If you are feeling bored too, then this suspense gem I am recommending right now will become the most thrilling 10+ minutes of your day. Anyone who enjoys secretly watching others knows that once is never enough, and doing it too often can become addictive. If you have that habit too, stop immediately, because the story that follows will completely overturn the way you see right and wrong. The male lead is named Thomas, and he and his girlfriend Pippa rent a 200 square meter apartment in the busiest part of the city. The apartment gets excellent natural light, and the surrounding area is filled with wealthy neighborhoods. One night, when the two of them are about to get intimate, Thomas accidentally notices that the photographer living across from them is also being affectionate with his wife. Pippa feels that secretly watching their neighbors like this is not very polite.
No, we're not spying, we're just looking outside our window and they happen to be in our field of vision.
But the couple across the street becomes more and more uninhibited, and the shy Pippa blushes from head to toe. Afterward, she runs into the bathroom, sprays on perfume, carefully freshens herself up, changes into seductive lingerie, and plans to enjoy a passionate moment. But to her disappointment, she discovers that Thomas has already fallen asleep. This detail also indirectly reflects Thomas's emotionally distant attitude. Pippa works at an eye clinic, and she shares the amusing story of spying on the neighbors with her coworker. Their conversation is bold and direct, and they even share relationship experiences. But at the same time, this also lays the groundwork for what happens next. After work, Pippa and Thomas's greatest pleasure becomes watching the neighbors across the street, and they even start imitating their lifestyle habits. At this moment, they notice that the male neighbor seems to have something stuck in his throat, but his wife is dancing with headphones on and cannot hear his calls for help at all. Thomas and Pippa are so nervous that they break out in a cold sweat, wishing they could rush over and help him immediately.
I should call 911?
No, they're not gonna get there fast enough. You need to go over there.
But if they recklessly go over to rescue him, they will expose the secret that they have been watching. Pippa believes saving a life comes first, and just as Thomas is about to go downstairs, the man finally manages to get his wife's attention. Unexpectedly, the woman does not know how to perform the Heimlich maneuver, and only keeps patting his back, which instead makes the object become even more firmly lodged. Just as the man is on the verge of disaster, the woman finally finds the correct way to help him, and with the emergency technique, she successfully pulls her husband back from the edge. Pippa and Thomas are overjoyed as if they had experienced it themselves, never realizing that they have already been quietly pulled into a carefully designed trap. The one who becomes increasingly obsessed with this is Pippa, who often gets up alone late at night while Thomas is asleep to watch the male neighbor across the street. His strong physique and firm abs stir strange emotions inside Pippa. From a certain point of view, this behavior can already be considered emotional cheating. It is also this habit that accidentally leads her to discover a hidden secret. The male neighbor's wife is about to leave on a long trip. The next day after work, when Pippa passes by a department store, an unremarkable telescope sitting in the corner catches her attention. With a telescope, this finally becomes spying in the true sense. The man is a photographer, and his main job is taking artistic photos of unclothed models, while every client who comes in is a top-tier beauty in the industry. Relying on his handsome appearance and his usual flirting skills, the man can successfully charm them every time and become intimate with them. Watching this scene makes Pippa feel restless and overwhelmed. Despite Thomas's resistance, she impatiently takes off her boyfriend's clothes. 5 minutes later, Thomas raises his hands in surrender. From Pippa's disappointed expression, it is not hard to see that she still has not gotten what she wanted. When she picks up the telescope again, what she sees is no longer envy, but desire. Late at night, Pippa tosses and turns, unable to sleep. Feeling unsatisfied and empty inside, she stands on the balcony again, and right at that moment, the female neighbor suddenly returns home. She rushes into the bedroom, eager to make up for the time lost with the husband she has not seen for days. Seeing this, Pippa feels at least a little jealousy in her heart. Hello everyone. Today we are taking a deep dive into the 2021 American thriller mystery film The Voyeurs. Pippa shares this interesting spying experience with her friends, but unexpectedly, during their casual chat, she learns about a scandal involving her boyfriend. It turns out that when Thomas was in college, in order to pursue a girl he had a crush on, he actually designed a simple listening device. The principle is to shine a laser pointer onto the target's window glass, and when someone speaks, the glass vibrates slightly, causing the laser dot to resonate, then sending the sound back to a recording device through the light beam. After hearing this, Pippa's eyes light up, and a bold idea instantly forms in her mind. The live visual feed can no longer satisfy her special obsession, and if she can hear the neighbors' voices too, just thinking about it feels exciting, making her desperate to try it.
Why haven't we done this yet?
Well, Pippa, it's probably illegal, and B, we can't. I mean, if we shine a laser into their apartment, it terminates. There's no way to sneak into Brent's studio and perfectly place a mirror behind his window. We're out of luck.
If the laser is aimed at a mirror, the other side will not notice it. Coincidentally, the neighbors are holding a cosplay party that night, so Pippa and Thomas dress up in costumes and successfully sneak inside. Then they secretly use chewing gum to stick a small mirror onto a decoration near the window. Following the same method from his college days, Thomas recreates an identical laser recording device. When the focus point hits the mirror across the street, the green light capable of transmitting sound instantly appears. They eagerly turn on the speaker, but what comes out is not the sound they wanted to hear.
Before you go into the bathroom with some woman. Everybody, fucking stupid!
It turns out that during the cosplay party, the wife discovered that her husband had gone into the bathroom along with another woman, making her suspect that he was cheating. But unexpectedly, the man turns the blame back on her, saying the woman is only his client, and that he has to rely on his looks to support their household expenses, accusing his wife of not understanding him and even questioning his work. The woman feels that she has wrongly accused her husband and begins to soften, but the man grabs her by the hair and violently slams her toward the floor. The sound of shattered glasses mixed with her helpless sobbing leaves Pippa and Thomas in silence on the other side. The thrill of spying completely disappears, and with cheating and household abuse exposed, the image of the handsome, powerful man in Pippa's heart completely collapses, making her life suddenly feel dull and empty. But sometimes, fate really can be that coincidental. The female neighbor across the street actually comes to their eye clinic. Pippa can barely hide her excitement, warmly steps forward to greet her, and even helps her choose a pair of glasses that perfectly matches her style. Although the two women are clearly meeting for the first time, it feels as if they have been old friends for years. They exchange contact information, and after going back and forth a few times, they somehow become close friends. During their conversations, Pippa learns that the woman's name is Julia, that she and her husband Sebastian have always had a great relationship, and that their private life is also incredibly passionate. Hearing this, Pippa's expression instantly stiffens, because she understands Sebastian even better than Julia does, and her husband is nothing but a complete hypocrite. After returning home, Pippa discusses it with Thomas, planning to tell Julia the truth about Sebastian's cheating, because she wants to save her friend from being trapped in this marriage. Thomas firmly opposes this irrational idea, because they have no right to interfere in other people's lives, and doing so would completely expose the truth that they have been spying.
Pippa, she doesn't need to be saved. She doesn't need to be saved by you. This is straight up none of your business.
Thomas storms out in anger, slamming the door behind him, then goes downstairs to the bar to drown his frustration. Still unwilling to give up, Pippa picks up the telescope again and continues watching the neighbors' lives. Julia changes into seductive lingerie and tries to get close to him, but Sebastian coldly rejects her, because his energy has already been spent on the black model from earlier that day. And this scene only increases the guilt in Pippa's heart. At this moment, she sees herself like an angel who cannot bear to watch others suffer. Planning to use her small amount of power to help Julia, she secretly turns on the recording device behind Thomas's back, then successfully connects her computer to the neighbor's printer. Through remote printing, Pippa tells Julia that her husband has cheated, and that in the bathroom trash can, there is also a used piece of protection. By the time Thomas discovers what Pippa has done, it is already too late. Sure enough, Julia finds the disgusting thing in the trash can. Just as the two of them are still arguing about it, Julia has already walked over to Sebastian with a knife in her hand. Luckily, Julia does not go through with it, and the two of them finally breathe a sigh of relief. Otherwise, Pippa would have lived with guilt for the rest of her life. Thomas smashes the telescope, completely ending this ridiculous spying game. Forcibly interfering in other people's lives will sooner or later bring consequences back on you. After a night of reflection, Pippa deeply realizes her mistake and makes up her mind to throw away the telescope, stop contacting Julia, and live her own life with her boyfriend from now on. But how could fate possibly let them go so easily? Pippa suddenly sees a terrifying scene. Julia has taken her own life. She spared Sebastian, but she did not spare herself. Pippa ignored all warnings and forced her way into someone else's marriage, causing an innocent life to be lost for nothing. Thomas had already warned her not to get involved in other people's business, but she refused to listen. Now everything has gone wrong, and his girlfriend has indirectly become responsible for someone's death. Thomas puts all the blame entirely on Pippa, unable to accept any of this, and immediately breaks up with her, packs his bags, and moves out of the rented apartment. Her boyfriend's reaction leaves Pippa deeply heartbroken. He was the one who insisted on spying in the beginning, and he was also the one who installed the listening device. Yet now that something has happened, he throws all the blame onto her. Does Thomas really have no responsibility at all? That night, Pippa cannot help but pick up the telescope again. Sebastian, just like her, is also trapped in deep guilt and self-blame, so he goes downstairs to the bar to keep drinking. Pippa follows closely behind and creates what looks like an accidental encounter. Sebastian notices that she is looking at him, so he takes the initiative to come over and flirt with her. As we mentioned earlier, Pippa had already crossed the line emotionally, and once the conditions allowed it, crossing the line physically was only a matter of time. The handsome, muscular man she has always secretly admired is right in front of her, and Pippa will not give up this opportunity. But perhaps the real high-level hunter is someone else entirely. Using photography as an excuse, Sebastian invites Pippa to his home, still using the same words and the same routine. He opens a bottle of 1982 Lafite, then guides her into taking off her clothes for revealing photos. Pippa is far more willing than the previous models, because she has been waiting for this day for a long time. In the end, the two of them become intimate. At this moment, Thomas is holding flowers and preparing to apologize to his girlfriend, only to find that the apartment is completely empty. He casually picks up a drink from the refrigerator and takes a big gulp, only to notice that the taste is strange this time. This bottle of drink is the most important foreshadowing in the entire story. While pouring the drink, he accidentally notices that the neighbors are being intimate again. Thomas finds it strange, because Sebastian's wife is supposed to be gone, so how could he have found someone new so quickly? Curious, he picks up the telescope and looks across, then instantly breaks down. The woman being intimate with Sebastian is none other than his girlfriend Pippa. The next day, when Pippa returns to the rented apartment, she discovers that Thomas has seemingly taken his own life by hanging. Everyone believes this is the price of spying, and they believe Pippa caused Julia's death and Thomas's death. Only her friend Ari feels that this is not her fault. Before she became intimate with Sebastian, her boyfriend had already broken up with her, so what Pippa did does not count as cheating. She may bear some responsibility for the deaths of Thomas and Julia, but it is not entirely her fault. With Ari's comfort, Pippa's heavy mood lightens a lot. Since things have already reached this point, Pippa decides to go find Sebastian, thinking that perhaps they might build a new family together. Little does she know, this trip will push her into a situation with no way back. Today is Sebastian's art exhibition, and business elites from all walks of life have come to visit. On the stage, Sebastian introduces the love of his life. Pippa thinks he will invite her to go on stage with him, but to her shock, as a wave of intense applause breaks out, Julia actually walks out from the crowd. It turns out this has been a trap they set from the very beginning, and the real star of today's exhibition is Pippa. As the red cloth falls, her revealing photos appear in front of everyone. From the day they moved into the new apartment, they had already walked into someone else's carefully designed trap. Even Thomas secretly placing the device at the party was allowed by them on purpose, and the accidental meeting at the eye clinic, one thing after another, was all carefully arranged. Otherwise, how could everything be so coincidental? When you stare into the abyss is also staring back at you.
Little did she realize the whole time that they were watching us.
Well, we were watching them.
Sebastian and Julia used human greed to plan this perfect work of art for their careers. Human nature cannot withstand temptation. The unlucky Pippa and Thomas, this young couple who had just graduated, became the test subjects in this dark experiment. Pippa sells everything she once owned with Thomas, trying to forget this painful memory and start a new life. Just as she is about to pack up that lantern, she unexpectedly discovers that it is filled with the drinks Thomas liked. At first, she does not pay much attention to it, until she notices many dead sparrows on the wire mesh. Pippa suddenly realizes something, then turns her head and sees Julia smiling at her with a wicked expression while waving. This instantly changes Pippa's mind, making her realize that Thomas's death was definitely not that simple. What comes next is Pippa's moment of revenge. Sebastian's voyeur's artwork sells massively around the world, earning him a fortune and doubling his value. A fan mysteriously sends them a bottle of high-end red wine, saying they hope to take part in the next season of The Voyeurs, with the Tate Gallery written as the signature. Sebastian and Julia do not take it seriously, raise the wine, and drink it down in one go. At this moment, the printer suddenly starts, and the message on it says, "I know Thomas did not take his own life. You killed him." Realizing that he is being watched, Sebastian immediately picks up the telescope and looks around, only to discover Pippa watching them from the rooftop. Pippa deliberately runs away, luring them to the eye clinic, then pretends to be terrified as she exposes their entire scheme. It turns out that Julia had secretly added a toxic substance to Thomas's favorite drink in advance. Although Thomas noticed that the taste was wrong, that one sip was already enough to take his life. After that, they hung him up and staged the scene to look like he had taken his own life. They did this not only to escape legal punishment, but also to add a more shocking highlight to their artwork. But just as they are preparing to silence Pippa for good, Julia suddenly collapses. As soon as the words fall, Sebastian also begins to lose consciousness. He suddenly thinks of the red wine they drank earlier, but by now, he has no strength left to fight back, becoming like a lamb waiting for slaughter.
Because it's the last thing you're ever gonna see.
Sebastian and Julia are placed on separate operating tables. Pippa performs free cataract surgery on them, using a laser to damage the retina that protects their vision, locking their world completely into endless darkness. Pippa uses the simplest method to punish this wicked couple, leading them to spend the rest of their lives in a fate worse than death. The film ends here. In truth, spying itself is not the scariest thing. What is truly terrifying is that we cannot control our desires or hold onto our moral boundaries. The Voyeurs is not only a thriller mystery film, but also a deep reflection on human morality. It does not have a complicated mind-bending plot, yet it feels more chilling than almost any mystery film. It tells us that curiosity is allowed, but desire must have boundaries. Alright, I look forward to seeing you again next time.